Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast, where we teach clients how to build wealth and create passive income without the risk of Wall Street.
Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host, Anthony Faso. Anthony, how are you today?
I'm doing good today. I mean, we already shot one podcast, and we've been looking forward to this one as well.
I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. This is a good friend of mine. This is Gary Crawford III with GC3 Capital. Welcome, Gary.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're having you back, actually, right? We recorded the first one, and the audio really wasn't up to par, so we brought him back in, and now here we are for version 2.
Well, I'd like to just to give Gary some props. Not only was the audio bad, which was my fault because I forgot to hit record, but it was our number 2 downloaded podcast. So we figured that there was definitely some people wanting to listen to it. So we wanted to make sure that the audio was good. So here we're going to redo it.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in. Gary, right? You've got a bunch of expertise in real estate investing that you've acquired over the last several years, and that's what we're hoping to kind of have you convey to some of our listeners today.
Yep.
As you get started, could you kind of tell us how you got into real estate and where your career began, wholesaling or as a realtor, right? Take it from there.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
So basically moved to Vegas about 3.5 years ago from Connecticut. And before moving, I wanted to get into real estate. Didn't really know how. Didn't really have that much money to get involved. And real estate, as I'm sure you know, in the Northeast, super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is I moved out to Vegas, packed everything up, put it in the car, had $1,500 in the bank, and decided to come to Vegas.
Wow.
So I worked for a bit, saved some money, saved about 10 grand, and then bought my first property. So that was the first start there.
So first property you brought was here in Las Vegas?
Yep. Yeah, put $10,000 down. It was a 7-bedroom. Don't recommend this, but what I would do is each week I would get my paycheck from my job to pay the labor for the rehab.
Okay.
And then I would use credit cards for the actual materials.
Okay, so you moved
I was pretty tight.
Moved into the house.
Yep.
Right. You brought in some roommates, so they're paying. And then what I think I heard you say was you were using the rent from them to rehab the property, and then put some of the other costs on a credit card. Is that right?
Yeah, and then I was also using my W-2 job at the time.
Gotcha.
The money from that. So luckily I had 2 friends that moved in literally with the floors demoed, and they were living in basically unlivable conditions, but they were friends, right?
Those are good friends.
That's what friends do.
Exactly.
So,
as long as they pay the rent, we don't care.
They were helping out, and that's how I got into it. Then I realized, wait a sec, I'm bringing in $1,800 a month after my mortgage and expenses are paid for, and I'm living for free. This is pretty cool.
Pretty good deal, right?
So yeah.
So just so I understand, so you bought a house that needed to be fixed up.
Yeah.
So then you started rent. Maybe instead of rent, a lot of times people rent homes. You rented rooms.
Yes.
Right. So you started renting the rooms to your friends, and then you had enough passive income not only pay your mortgage, but to also start making some profit from it.
Yep. Correct. And on Bigger Pockets and these other podcasts, you'll hear of the term house hack, and that's basically where you live in the actual property itself. All your expenses are covered for, and then the renters essentially pay for your living, and then you can make some money on top of it. So
now, speaking of Bigger Pockets, you actually wrote an article for them, right? You want to tell us a little bit about that?
So that basically it was really an outline for beginners, because I was getting a bunch of people that reach out and say, hey, how do you get started? Like how much money do I need? I only have couple $1,000, or like what do I do?
What'd you tell them? You just need a couple broke friends to move in?
Yeah, that's all you need. Friends who care, that's all you need.
Exactly.
And a credit card. So but no, I just outlined how it's really not that hard to get involved. I had a W-2 job, and they actually only calculated my W-2 income, which is like 32 grand.
Yeah.
So I got a loan for $175,000 mortgage from that. And I was able to get started. So a lot of people don't know that, it doesn't take that much to get in. And then that property itself, I bought for $175,000, put some work into it, and then I sold it for $300,000. So
how much later did you sell that for? How long were you in the house?
22 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so almost 2 years.
Yep.
But I did like a owner carry on it.
Okay.
So
Mm.
I'm technically still owed a little money from someone who might be watching.
We won't
But-
name any names. Yeah.
But I will be getting the rest of that,
Absolutely.
after he refinances.
Awesome.
Yep.
So then you had a pretty nice profit in there, and since it was your primary home,
Yes.
is that how you reported on your tax return, or do
Well,
we not want to go
it's
since
not-
this is public? But
It's technically not sold yet because it's
Mm.
that's what we're waiting for the 2-year mark.
Okay, great. And just to reiterate, there's a lot of tax advantages, particularly for real estate. And one of them is if you live in your primary house for 2 out of the last 5 years, you can exclude up to the gain up to $250,000 if you're single and $500,000 if you are married. Now, Gary, what I tell you, what I think is the most interesting is you were fairly young. I'd be curious how old you were. Well, how old were you when you did this?
24.
That is awesome. So you're 24. Most people on 24 aren't thinking about buying real estate. They're probably thinking about, this is Vegas. They're probably
Yeah.
thinking about going out. And if they're probably not thinking about saving, and if they are, they've probably been told to put it in their IRA or 401k. But you did some things different. How did you get that mindset to not do what everybody else is doing and start investing in real estate?
Well, honestly, I mean, I did a lot of research, and I would always kind of look at different people I knew that were, successful. And I saw a common trend with them. Most of the people that were super successful owned a lot of real estate, and or they were involved in some way, and they didn't fit that norm, where you go to college, you get a job, you get a pension, you
Yeah.
put your money into
Yeah.
retirement, and then you retire and you live off that. So I've always just had a different kind of mindset just through that. And I realized that road that most people, follow on is not the road that, I want to go on. And ultimately it's about creating that freedom, to be able to do what I want to do kind of on my own terms, and that's why I really got into real estate, was to be able to do that and, live the life I want to live down the road.
So tell us a little bit more about that freedom, because you spent some time working 9 to 5 where you had to be here at this time and you have to ask permission to leave.
Yep.
Or if you're sick, you gotta make that awkward call to your boss. That takes one mindset. How was that freedom been for you mentally, from going from asking permission to just being your own boss?
I can't even honestly explain at times, like at first I just felt like, when you're on that like summer vacation or that
Mhm.
holiday,
Yeah.
basically like that at all times.
24/7.
Like this is great.
Yeah.
I don't have a set schedule to go to. But ultimately, I realized it was time to quit my job when I was making more in real estate part-time than I was in my full-time job. So at that point I was like, okay, it's time to leave this job. And then also, I had the house hack that was able to financially keep me, afloat from there. And I knew that, I wanted to do some traveling, and just, live a little as well. So I made that my goal and went from there.
So you mentioned the house hack, and then you also mentioned that you had a business that was, surpassing your W-2 income.
Yeah.
What did your business look like at that time? What were you doing? Were you wholesaling, or what did it look like?
Yeah. So we were wholesaling.
Okay.
And
So real quick for our listeners, could you
Yeah.
define wholesaling? Tell them what that is.
basically, so what you do is you get a property under contract. So you purchase a property, let's say for $100,000, you get it under contract for 30 days. So you have that contract, and you have the actual equitable interest in the contract, where you could then sell that contract to another buyer or assign the contract. So what we would do is we would assign that contract to a flipper, or another investor for say $115,000, $120,000, and then we would get $15,000, $20,000 at closing, where that new buyer would come in as the purchaser on the property. So out of pocket for the actual property, we wouldn't have to come out of pocket at all. So it'd be, zero cost up front. and just we'd have to pay for our marketing, to find these deals.
What would you do if you couldn't find a buyer within the 30 days?
To be honest,
Never happened.
it happened one time.
Did it?
It was probably the worst property we ever got under contract. And there were about 4 other buyers, or excuse me, 4 other wholesalers that got the property under contract. And the seller knew essentially that, like, this property's no bueno.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
see.
So what happened there?
so what happened there? We lost $500, which was
Okay.
our earnest money, deposit.
Gotcha.
So we lost
Okay.
that money that we had put down. But when we're doing these, we're very calculated on our numbers. So we look and see like exactly what the property is going to be worth. How much repairs are going to need to go into it roughly.
Yeah.
What the expenses are going to be if they're going to sell the property afterwards, closing costs, all that. So we leave some room in there, for profit, of course. So we would not get a deal under contract if we would not be able to assign that contract.
Okay. So you were building out kind of that wholesaling business. Have you stuck in that lane, right? Have you grown? Has your business evolved since then?
Yeah, it definitely changed. I mean, wholesaling isn't really like an end game because it's super, it's like the self-employed rat race.
Very
It's
time intense, right?
very time intense. It's a constant grind. Here in Vegas, there's a ton of competition. We're definitely one of the if not the most aggressive, markets for that. Because you could get people that are, in different states or wherever doing this wholesaling virtually, where they can, find people's phone numbers, give them calls, voicemails, texts, all different marketing tactics, and they could do it from anywhere in the country. So there's definitely a lot of competition. But what I kind of shifted from was after the wholesaling, kind of gaining some capital up, did a couple flips, and then I shifted markets to Columbus, Ohio. And that's where I primarily focus now. And it's actually been more so on the side of rentals versus the side of flips.
Cool.
I mean,
real
wholesales.
quick, can you tell us what a flip is?
Yeah, a flip is just
Tell our listeners and Anthony what a flip
okay.
is.
So Anthony, a flip
That
is
was my
when so you basically get a property. You purchase a property that needs some repairs. Some actually, believe it or not, don't even need repairs, or you're just buying a property normally off market, ideally,
Okay.
At a discount, and then you're going to put some work into it, and resell the property for a profit.
Awesome. So you some flips, right, is what you were doing, and then you said you acquired some rentals and you shift markets out to Columbus, right?
Yes. Yep.
Well, what did you see in Columbus that made you move? Right? Why Columbus?
Yeah. So I would say that as of now, my over the past year, my mindset has shifted a little bit on parts of Columbus.
Okay.
But initially, the thought was purchase these duplexes and smaller multifamilies that are cash flowing.
Yeah.
And then if I could find them at a discount, like I'm finding these properties here in Vegas, through wholesaling, that I could do the same thing where I'm going to have some equity in it from the get-go, and then also I'm going to have the cash flow for the monthly residual.
Awesome. You said your mindset has changed a little bit. So is that
Yeah.
where you currently are, or you were there?
I was, so that's what I was doing at first. Got up to 26 doors,
Nice.
and but then
and how long of a time period?
well, it's been 11 months since the first purchase.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, but now it's, to be honest, there's some of these properties that are becoming headaches with, evictions. Like past 2 months, I've had 6 evictions. I've had this past month, I just spent $5,000 on handyman repairs in all the different units. So there's a lot of things that people don't talk about or you don't hear about on certain, Anthony's chopping at the bit here.
Yeah, because this is one of the pet peeves of mine. I do watch HGTV and I do watch Flip. Okay, I do watch Flip or Flop. And
Great show.
Every episode, like in the middle, oh my gosh, there's this unforeseen repair. We are going to lose money. And then the guy is like stressing out. But then somehow by the end of this show, everything comes into order and they make they make a profit. I tell you, I've seen a lot of flips on that show. I've yet to see a flop. And I think a lot of people see that and say, well, man, this is super easy. These guys are just killing it. So I like to point out and share with our listeners that not every deal is going to be successful. Would you mind maybe sharing either an example of something that went wrong and or maybe something that you've learned during this process?
Well, last week I lost $18,000 on one deal.
Okay,
So-
that,
So
that,
walk,
I
walk
call
us,
that a
walk
flop.
us through
Being-
that. Yeah,
just
tell
being
us how
honest
that
with you
happened.
guys.
Yeah.
No, that was a deal here actually in Vegas. I had paid a wholesaler, for the property, but then after running the numbers, I realized it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Wait. So, did you run the numbers after you bought it, or did the numbers change, or is that something you
So-
learned?
So I may have bought the property, not seeing it while in Europe. Mistake.
Speaking
mistake,
of freedom.
mistake. So yeah, so I didn't, I thought it was a deal. It wasn't really a deal. And then how I analyzed it was, is it worth putting another $45,000 into this to get this property up and ready and cash flowing because it was a rental, or is it better off to walk? So after looking at the numbers,
Some deliberation.
I decided it was better off to walk.
So, what did you learn from that? Like, if the next time you're touring Europe and you get a call from a wholesaler, like, what are you going to do different?
Yeah, not be so impulsive. Buying. Really stick to criteria on what you want. I think it's easy to always have the shiny object syndrome, where every deal looks like a good deal, and there's money to be made out there, but you got to know what you want. And at the end of the day, that really did not fit what I was actually looking for. I just was kind of trigger happy with some extra cash in the bank. So
You mentioned you were on vacation in Europe, right? And you got a call for a potential property. What does your business look like? Has your business grown since when you started? Is it a small operation? Are you looking to scale, and how have you been able to get to where you're at, kind of from the business standpoint?
yeah, so now it's changed a little bit. Like I have in Columbus 2 realtors that are kind of like my boots on the ground people.
Okay.
And but they're not just a realtor. Like they'll help manage a property for me. Like they're managing flips for me that I have going on. So current renovations, they're checking in every day, to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I give them a, part of the profit on the flip on the back end.
Okay.
So we work out a deal there where they're making a little extra money and they're happy there. And then with the contractors now are on page where they actually want to like partner on deals. So we haven't structured that. So I need to I want to sit down in person and actually have that conversation with them. I think that's something that's better to do at a table than, on the phone.
Yeah.
But it's good to see that, like some of these guys are, they're really, really helping out when things are needed. And then I have a kind of handyman that's on call. So I could just send him a text, at any time of the day, and he'll be out there, within 24 hours to get it fixed up.
Yeah.
So
how have you gone about assembling this crew, right? Or this,
yeah. So
people to help you?
I went out there, when I first, was looking to buy,
Mhm.
and I went out there for like a week, and I probably met with like 30, 40 different people.
Wow.
And just like networked with, with lenders, with realtors, with contractors, with, everyone I could in the industry to try and build like a team of people. And thankfully I did have a buddy who lives out there, and we're partnered on some deals as well.
Yeah.
And so he's been a big help in, and actually, checking properties out as well and managing some of ours. So, he's been a huge help. But I try to like get people involved and give them a piece of the pie, so that they're incentivized too, and not just take it all.
There's some
for
skin
myself.
in the game.
Yeah.
You can kind of
So-
be a win-win as far as cash flow.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
So-
I love that. It's a great idea.
I was just thinking about the idea of different markets, right? Vegas to Columbus. How much information did you have, or how much knowledge did you have on Columbus as a market for what you're doing, or did you rely more so on kind of your partners that were there?
At first it was my partners.
Yeah.
And then now like there's certain areas of town that I try to just focus on.
Okay.
And there's other areas that I'll specifically stay away from, because I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I've gotten more familiar now. But at first I was relying, on these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what opportunities do you see there? More fix and flips, more kind of single family residence? You're looking for cash flow. What do you see there?
I mean, now I'm trying to trying to shift more to the larger multifamilies.
Okay.
I would rather have one, say 16 unit or 24 unit that might not make as much money.
Yeah.
But under one roof than to have, 8 to 12 different duplexes
Yeah.
that I have to worry about. So I'm trying to, I'm selling some of these properties and doing the renovations to resell them at, a higher price.
Yep.
So that I could cash out and then ultimately invest in a larger deal.
Okay. Very cool. What else we got here, Anthony?
Well, so you do have a business here. I mean, are you doing this all yourself, or tell us a little bit about your team, because there's also some admin and there's also some accounting and marketing. Like, how have you created your team, and who's part of your team?
Yeah. So to be honest, I got rid of a good amount of the actual admin people in the virtual assistants because my model shifted. I used to be doing more wholesaling where like there's a lot, it's very time intensive.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd outsource your callers, outsource your texters, outsource all that. So, we had 3-4 different virtual assistants that were handling these things. Now, like for example, 2 weeks ago, I did a voicemail campaign. And I mean, that takes, an hour to set up and then following up with people. So I did that myself and then ended up getting a deal, out of that. So
could you expand on the voicemail campaign and outsourcing texters?
Sure. So in wholesaling, you basically got to hit people from different angles. So our main approach was to do a ringless voicemail. So what they do there is basically you get a voicemail on your phone, but your phone never rang. So you probably hate us,
I do. I've had those.
And you're like, what is this? But it's me on the other end saying, "Hey, Anthony, Gary here. Just driving by the neighborhood. Want to see if you're looking to sell your property here over in town. Give me a call back or shoot me a text if you can." And then.
So these are properties that aren't even for sale.
Oh no, yeah, they're not for sale.
Oh, no, they're not MLS listed, right?
No. Yeah, these are all off-market deals. So, and people target different ones. This is common in all around the country. Pre-foreclosures where people are about to lose the property, so they're in desperation to sell. Sometimes it's the divorce properties, or, people that were divorced, death in the family, high equity. The list goes on and on. So, so the ringless voicemail is one tactic, and then just texting is just sending text messages out to the same people. So you're hitting them from different angles, and it takes a lot of time. And but that's how you find a lot of these deals that are at a discount. So instead of spending, paying 100% of the market value or even 90, 95, we're buying these at 50, 60, sometimes 35, 40. You get some solid deals by finding the deals off market.
What would you say is kind of the most important, skill set that you have or that you've kind of acquired over the last several years that's kind of helped you get to where you're at now?
It's a good question.
That is a good question.
Whether it's just the phone,
this isn't on the list.
The sexy phone voice, right? So people answer you, or if it's like networking and socializing, like what aspect of it? You've got a skill set, but you acquired it somewhere. Was it pieces you picked up from other people, or did people kind of help you along the way?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I mean, networking has always been kind of the strong suit. Talking to people, I think is another one. Getting people to feel comfortable with you, because at the end of the day, some of these people you talk to, they're talking to 4 or 5 different other people, so you got to differentiate yourself from them. But then also, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to the work ethic.
Yeah,
it just comes down to putting the time in, because at the end of the day, if you put the time in, you're gonna get deals. They're out there. It's just a matter of that. So just
I'm glad you said that, because we talked to a lot of clients, and real estate is very appealing to a lot of people, but they just don't know how to get started. But kind of that trajectory that a lot of people hope that they progress down is that idea of starting with wholesaling and kind of acquiring single family residents for rentals and those things, and then moving up to multifamily, which you've been able to do, but it's not easy, right? It's a lot of hard work in there. And so, kudos to you, man, right? That's a lot of work you put together over the last couple of years to get you to here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I couldn't have done it with the 1,000 people that helped me. So
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is you understand banking,
Yes.
right? And
A little bit.
right? Could you mind kind of maybe what would you tell somebody that's on the fence that's thinking about whether they should implement private banking into their business practices or otherwise?
You're for like the infinite banking concept.
Infinite
or
banking
IBC.
concept. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would definitely say the biggest thing for me is having control. So having control over your money, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a Roth IRA, kind of got one when I was 22,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I was just gonna sock away money into this, and then in whatever, in 40 years, I was gonna have all this money in there.
40 years come back for it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's tax free. So I mean, I got that, and then after researching, I realized that wasn't really the best thing to do long term.
Yeah.
In the short term. So I actually ended up taking all that money out, to be honest, after 4 years, and then I ended up using it for a property to purchase.
Awesome.
So, and then I took that, and then I put that into a insurance policy where I could leverage that money that's in there over time. So I have my own bank account. It's kind of like a nest egg.
Yeah.
That then I'll be able to use, and just let that thing build over time, and then if I need it for different investments, I could lend against myself, and it's tax free as well.
Awesome.
So,
and earlier, just to kind of take this full circle, as you mentioned that sometimes you use hard money lending, right,
Yep.
for certain instances, and sometimes you use your money, right? Can you kind of tell us how you choose which pool of money you go to?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. So I mean, on like larger purchases, like over generally 125,000 and up, for a property purchase, I'll try to acquire hard money.
Okay.
So with the hard money, you typically pay 12%. Well, it depends on the terms, 10 to 12%, sometimes even down to 8% interest, and then say 2 to 4 points on top of that. So right now, like most of mine, because they fund the deal completely, I pay 12% interest and 3 points.
Yeah.
So and for people that aren't familiar with points, it's money that's paid upfront on that. So on $200,000, 3 points would be $6,000. So, and that's what I do for the hard money. And then I like to try and fund the rehab with my own money so that I'm not paying additional, interest on that.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. One thing I was going to say there is, I'm a big fan of you personally and kind of what you've been able to do, because kind of Anthony and I's philosophy is, man, really what we try to address with clients first and foremost is that foundation, what we call tier one, cash value, making sure we have some cash that's available to us. And then our tier two is really control, right? Is investing back into yourself and to your business and developing some sort of skill set and turning that into a business and an income stream. And that's what you've been able to do in a very short period of time. And it's awesome to watch, man. So congratulations.
Thank you. You just got to keep it going.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Just getting started, man. What, 2 years? 2.5 years? Wow.
Yeah. You have an amazing story, and I respect what you've done for when you had to get out of that mindset, but also what you have accomplished, but also here you are sharing this. Like you're not selling the course or a book, or
I do have a course.
You do? Okay.
That a boy.
Well, good.
I'm just joking.
Oh, you do? Okay.
No, I'm just joking.
Well,
that's $9.99.
You should, because you have some information that I believe is valuable to others. But since you don't, here you are, you're taking more time out of your day, because as we said earlier, we had recorded this a couple months ago, but here you are again, really nothing to gain. You're just trying to share some of your knowledge. And as part of that knowledge, what would you tell somebody who might be on the fence? Like, this infinite banking concept sounds good, but I don't know. I'd maybe rather do a Roth or something else. What sort of advice would you give them if they're on the fence?
I mean, first and foremost, I would say do your research. Look into it, but talk to people in the industry. Talk to people who know what they're doing. You might be able to talk to one of these guys here.
It's a good idea.
Not a promo, but just educate yourself, and you got to look out for and talk to people that really have the best interest in you. Because I will say, like, I talked to some other people, whether it's financial advisors or different life insurance people, and they were leading me down the wrong path. These what are they called? UIL.
ULs,
IUL.
but
Yes.
brought that up, right?
And then the term,
forgot
some of these
about that.
term policies that honestly, like, they sounded great at first.
Yeah.
And then after, really learning more about them, I actually talked to Cameron about this personally, and then he showed me exactly like what it was, and then I'm happy I didn't do that. So, education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I would say, the IULs are like the shiny coins, or what you had talked about when you were relaxing in Europe, where it just sounds cool, right? Everything sounds good on paper, but
Yeah.
we don't live in a paper world. And, we haven't posted it yet, or I don't know when we're going to post this, but we actually did a podcast on why we don't recommend IULs for the infinite banking concept. So I'd recommend that you check that out. And in addition, well, that's going to be more big picture, but if you want some more details or some numbers to support what our theory is, we have a way for you to access some calculators, some videos, and some links to some other sources. And you can get that for free at the Infinite Wealth Consultants /IUL, which we will also have that in the show notes.
And we'll also have a link to Gary's article on Bigger Pockets in the show notes. I know that when you posted that, or when that was published, it was welcomed as a huge success. I know a lot of people reached out to you afterwards.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, right. And same thing. I don't want to presume anything, but if somebody has questions, is there a way that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, I would say, Facebook is probably the best. Gary L. Crawford III. I think I'm the only third on there. Or send me an email, capcityprops@gmail.com, either or. But if you're interested in Columbus market and you're looking to get involved, or you have questions, or I just kind of help people if they need help. So if you're starting wholesaling, whatever it is.
Awesome, man.
Reach
And
out.
I would imagine, right? I've got clients that love the idea of real estate, but that first step's always the scariest, right?
Yeah.
Gary's a great guy to call and just kind of talk you through and say, hey, here's what happens if you do take that step. So again, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you just got to do it.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. Also, check out our website, infinitewealthconsultants.com, to find our podcast along with other additional resources.